Okay, welcome back, everyone. It is very hot on this side of the house. Um, you may see me in my bedroom, which is on the other side of the house, and it is in the shade for the afternoon because no sun hits it like my kitchen, where it hits both sides on morning on one side and in the afternoon on the other. The air conditioner is also on in there. I don't like to leave the AC on in the kitchen. It's a smaller space, so not necessary. It's just too much. But today we're gonna do, well, for our afternoon book, we're gonna do the Magic Tree House, Dinosaurs Before Dawn, and this is written by Mary Pope Osborne. And I'm gonna try to do, I don't know, maybe 2 sessions with this, and then we'll go into something else. But yeah, for the next couple of books, they might be in much cooler areas of the house. So, without further ado, here we go. So this is the Magic Tree House, Dinosaurs Before Dark. Did I say dawn? I meant dark. I'm going to be okay. So now, if you've never read any of these books, they are actually really cool, and there is a whole bunch of them. And I do have, I shouldn't say my son does have almost the whole series, plus all the extras. They're called Merlin's chapter books. So we'll try to cycle through as many as we can. So here we go. Chapter 1, Into the Woods. Help, a monster, said Annie. Yeah, sure, said Jack. A real monster in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania? Run, Jack, said Annie. She ran up the road. Oh, brother, thought Jack. This is what he got for spending time with his 7-year-old sister. Annie loved pretending stuff, but Jack was 8.5. He liked real things. Watch out, Jack. The monster's coming, said Annie. Jack didn't say anything. Come on, Jack. I'll race you, said Annie. No thanks, said Jack. Annie raced into the woods. Jack looked at the sky. The sun was about to set. Come on, Annie. It's time to go home, yelled Jack. But Annie didn't answer. Jack waited. Annie, he called again. Jack, Jack, Annie shouted. Come here, quick. Jack groaned. This better be good, he said. Jack left the road and headed into the woods. The trees were lit with a golden late afternoon light. Over here, called Annie. Annie was standing under a tall oak tree. Look, she said. She pointed out a rope ladder. It was hanging down from high in the tree. Wow, Jack whispered. At the top of the tree was a tree house, tucked between 2 branches. That must be the highest tree house in the world, said Annie. Who built it? Asked Jack. I've never seen it before. I don't know, but I'm going up, said Annie. No, we don't know who it belongs to, said Jack. Just for teeny minutes, said Annie. She started up the ladder. Annie, come back, said Jack. But Annie kept climbing. She climbed all the way up to the tallest branches. Jack sighed. Annie, it's almost dark. We have to go home. Annie disappeared inside the treehouse. Annie, Jack called. Jack waited a moment. He was about to call again when Annie poked her head out of the treehouse window. Books, Annie shouted. What? Jack said. It's filled with books, said Annie. Oh, man, Jack thought. He loved books. Jack pushed his glasses into place. He gripped the sides of the rope ladder and started up. Chapter 2, The Monster. Jack crawled into the treehouse. Wow, he said. The treehouse was filled with books. Books were everywhere. Very old books with dusty covers and new books with shiny, bright covers. Look, said Annie. You can see far away. She was peering out the treehouse window. Jack looked out the window with her. Below were the tops of the other trees. In the distance, he could see the Frog Creek Library and the elementary school and the park. Annie pointed in the other direction. There's our house, she said. Annie was right. Jack could see their white wooden house with its green porch in the yard next door with their neighbor's black dog, Henry. He looked very tiny. Hi, Henry, shouted Annie. Shush! We're not supposed to be up here, said Jack. Jack glanced around the treehouse again. He noticed that bookmarks were sticking out of many of the books. I wonder who owns all these books, he asked. I like this one, said Annie. She picked up a book with a castle on the cover. Here's a book about Pennsylvania, said Jack. He turned the pages with the bookmark. Hey, here's a picture of Frog Creek, said Jack. It's a picture of these woods. Oh, here's a book for you, said Annie. She held up a book about dinosaurs. A blue silk bookmark was sticking out of it. Let me see, said Jack. He set his paperback down on the floor and grabbed the book from Annie. Okay, you look at that one and I'll look at the one about castles, said Annie. No, we'd better not, said Jack. We don't know who these books belong to. But even as he said this, Jack was opening the dinosaur book to the place where the bookmark was. He couldn't help himself. Jack turned to a picture of an ancient flying reptile. He recognized it as the... My brain is going to have a brain fart. Hold on. Pterodactyl. Or pteranodon? I'm sorry, it's a pteranodon. He touched the huge bat-like wings in the picture. Wow, whispered Jack. I wish we could go to a time of the pteranodons. Jack studied the picture of the odd-looking creature soaring through the skies. Ah, cried Annie. What's this, Jack? A monster. Annie cried. She pointed out the treehouse window. Stop pretending, Annie, Jack said. No, really, said Annie. Jack looked out the window. A giant creature was gliding above the treetops. It had a long, weird crest on the back of its head, a shiny beak, and huge black wings. It was a real pteranodon. The creature swooped through the skies. It looked like a glider plane. It was coming straight towards the treehouse. Get down, cried Annie. Jack and Annie crouched on the floor. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. All right, so what do you guys think? I do know some of these books, so I'm not going to say anything. Chapter 3. Where is here? Jack opened his eyes. Sunlight slanted through the windows. The treehouse was still high up in the trees, but it wasn't the same tree. Where are we? Said Annie. She and Jack looked out the window. The pteranodon was soaring through the sky. The ground was covered with ferns and tall grass. There was a winding stream, a sloping hill, and volcano in the distance. I don't know where we are, said Jack. That's a good assessment. The pteranodon glided down to the base of the tree. It landed on the ground and stood very still. So, what just happened to us? Said Annie. Well, said Jack, I was looking at the picture in the book, and you said, wow, I wish we could go to the time of the pteranodon, said Annie. Yeah, and then we saw a pteranodon in the Frog Creek woods, said Jack. Yeah, and then the wind got loud, and the treehouse started spinning, said Annie. And we landed here, said Jack. And we landed here, said Annie. So that means, said Jack. So that means what? Said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. He shook his head. None of this can be real. Annie looked out the window again. But he's real, she said. He's very real. Jack looked out the window with her again. The pteranodon was standing at the base of the tree like a guard. His giant wings were spread out on either side of him. Hi, Annie shouted. Shush, said Jack. You're not supposed to be here. But where is here? Said Annie. I don't know, said Jack. Hi, who are you? Annie called out to the pteranodon. The creature just looked up at her. Are you nuts? He can't talk, said Jack. But maybe the book can tell us. Jack looked down at the book. He read the words under the picture. The flying reptile lived in the Cretaceous period. It vanished 65 million years ago with the dinosaurs. That's impossible, said Jack. We couldn't have gone to a time 65 million years ago, Jack, said Annie. He's nice. Nice, said Jack. Yeah, I can tell, said Annie. Let's go down to him. Go down, said Jack. Annie started down the rope ladder. Hey, come back, said Jack. But Annie kept going. Annie, wait, Jack called. Annie dropped to the ground. She stepped boldly up to the ancient creature. Yeah, that's bold. Chapter 4. Henry. Jack gasped as Annie reached out her hand towards the pteranodon. Oh no, he thought. Annie was always trying to make friends with animals, but this was going too far. Don't get too close to him, Annie, Jack shouted. Annie touched the pteranodon's crest. She stroked his neck. She was talking to him. What in the world is she saying? Jack wondered. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. It was a text from work, but it was also a good time to get a drink and sit back down. Alright, so back we go. When we left off, she was talking to the pteranodon, and Jack didn't know what she was saying. And my son is looking through the curtains. What's up, Nicholas? Huh? I'm reading. What's up?
Are you done though?
No, I'm not done.
Can you give me some chips, please? I don't think you really need it.
Thanks. Do you need a drink?
Oh, I already got one.
Okay. Alright, and there you have it, everybody. Sometimes you just gotta get up. Alright, back to the book. He took a deep breath. Okay, he would go down too. It would be good to examine a pteranodon. He could take notes like a scientist. Jack started down the roped ladder. When he reached the ground, he was only a few feet away from the creature. The pteranodon stared at Jack. His eyes were bright and alert. He's soft, Jack, said Annie. He feels like Henry. Jack snorted. He's no dog, Annie. Feel him, Jack. Feels like him, said Annie. Jack didn't move. Don't think, Jack. Just do it, Annie said. Jack stepped forward. He reached out very cautiously. He brushed his hand down the creature's neck. Interesting, Jack thought. A thin layer of fuzz covered the pteranodon's skin. Soft, huh? Said Annie. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out a pencil and a notepad. He wrote, fuzzy skin. Very good observation. What are you doing? Asked Annie. Taking notes, said Jack. We're probably the first people in the whole world to ever see a real live pteranodon. Jack looked at the pteranodon again. The bony crest on top of his head was larger than Jack's arm. I wonder how smart he is, Jack said. Very smart, said Annie. Don't count on it, said Jack. His brain's probably no bigger than a bean. No, he's very smart. I can tell it, said Annie. I'm going to name him Henry. Jack wrote in the notebook, small brain, question mark. I don't think they're small brained. Jack looked at the creature again. Maybe he's a mutant, he said. The pteranodon tilted its head. Annie laughed. He's not a mutant, Jack. Well, what's he doing here then? Where is this place, said Jack. Annie leaned closer to the pteranodon. Do you know where we are, Henry? She asked softly. The creature fixed its eyes on Annie. His long jaws were opening and closing like a giant pair of scissors. Are you trying to talk to me, Henry? Asked Annie. Forget it, Annie. Jack wrote in his notebook, mouth like scissors. Did we come to a time long ago, Henry? Asked Annie. Is this a place from long ago? Suddenly Annie gasped, Jack. Jack looked up. Annie was pointing towards the hill. On top stood a huge dinosaur. Oh boy. Chapter 5. Gold in the Grass. Go, go, said Jack. He threw his notebook into his back. He pushed Annie towards the rope ladder. Bye, Henry, she said. Go, said Jack. He gave Annie another push. Quit it, she said. As she started up the ladder, Jack scrambled after her. Jack and Annie tumbled into the treehouse. They were panting as they looked out the window at the dinosaur. It was standing on the hilltop, eating flowers off of a tree. Oh, man, whispered Jack. We are in a time long ago. The dinosaur looked like a huge rhinoceros with 3 horns instead of 1. It had 2 long horns above its eyes and another one growing out from its nose. It had a big shield-like thing behind its head. Triceratops, said Jack. Does he eat people? Whispered Annie. I'll look it up. Jack grabbed the dinosaur book. He flipped through the pages. There, said Jack, pointing to a picture of a Triceratops. He read the caption. The Triceratops lives in the late Cretaceous period. This plant-eating dinosaur weighed over 12,000 pounds. Wow, that's a lot. Jack slammed the book shut. Just plants, no meat. Good, said Annie. Let's go see him up close. Are you crazy? Said Jack. Don't you want to take notes about him? Asked Annie. We're probably the first people in the whole world to ever see a real-life Triceratops. Jack sighed. Annie was right. Okay, let's go, he said. Jack shoved the dinosaur book into his pack. He slung his pack over his shoulder. Annie started down the ladder, and Jack followed her. Just promise you won't pet him, Jack called out to Annie. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't kiss him, said Jack. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't talk to him. I promise, said Annie. Promise you won't. Don't worry, said Annie. Annie and Jack stepped off the ladder. The pteranodon gave them a friendly look. Annie blew him a kiss. Be back soon, Henry, she called. Shush, said Jack, and he led the way slowly and carefully through the ferns. When Jack and Annie reached the bottom of the hill, they knelt behind a bush. Annie started to speak, but Jack quickly put his finger to his lips. Then he and Annie peeked out at the Triceratops. The dinosaur was bigger than a truck. He was eating the flowers off of a magnolia tree. Jack slipped his notebook out of his pack, and he wrote. What did he write? Eats flowers. Annie nudged him. Jack ignored her. He studied the Triceratops again. He wrote, eats slowly. Annie nudged him harder. Jack looked at her. Annie pointed to herself. She walked her fingers through the air. She pointed to the dinosaur. She smiled. Is she teasing? Jack wondered. Annie waved at Jack. Jack started to grab her. She laughed and jumped away. She fell into the grass in full view of the Triceratops. Get back, whispered Jack. Too late. The big dinosaur had spotted Annie. He gazed down at her from the hilltop. Half of a magnolia flower was sticking out of his mouth. Oops, said Annie. Get back, Jack said again. He looks nice, Jack, says Annie. Nice? Watch out for his horns, Annie, said Jack. The Triceratops gazed calmly down at Annie. Then he turned and looped down the side of the hill. Bye, said Annie. She turned back to Jack. See? Jack grunted, but he wrote in his notebook, nice. Come on, let's look around some more, said Annie. As Jack started after Annie, he saw something glittering in the tall grass. Jack reached down and picked it up. It was a gold medallion. A letter was engraved on the medallion, a fancy M. Oh man, someone was here before us, Jack said softly. So we are going to stop right before chapter 6, and we will pick back up in a little bit. I think I'm gonna go set up my bedroom because it's very hot. We'll see you in a little.